Hello, Sarah Sabin, Executive Leadership and Intuition Coach here. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about failure, failure's impact on the brain, and why the impact on the brain may be different from how you perceive it. So, failure is an absolutely crucial component to success. There is no one successful on the entire planet that has not failed, and more than that, failed multiple times. In fact, the most successful people in the planet, or on the planet rather, have failed far, far, far more times than the average person. The problem is that that doesn't really tend to get reported. We just see people having overnight success, which does not exist. So there is this negative perception of failure that can be out there. Now, this can be a problem with high achieving people because they're so worried about other people perceiving them as a failure, and they're so worried about how much they're going to beat themselves up for failing. They hold themselves back from trying to do things, growing, expanding. And I want to give an extreme example here. Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street. If you're unfamiliar with his story, I'll just quickly go into this. He defrauded hundreds of thousands of investors of a lot of money, lived this crazily lavish lifestyle. The law caught up with him and he went to jail. When he got out of jail, he could have taken the stance of, oh my God, I failed. No one will ever trust me again. Everyone perceives me as a crook. I'm not even going to bother trying. Did he do that? No. He set himself up as a sales trainer. The one thing that most people can probably agree on is that he is phenomenal at selling. And he created a successful business out of just that, selling his zone of genius. If he can recover from the kind of monumental failure that he had, there is hope for everyone. We just need to learn to see failure differently. So, what happens in the brain when we fail? You've got two types of dopamine neuron in the brain. Dopamine is that feel-good, happy hormone that is released in the brain. So we love dopamine. So you've got type 1 dopamine neurons that basically decrease the amount of dopamine released into the brain after a disappointment. And as you can imagine, this leads to a drop in our mood and how we feel about ourselves. Then you've got type 2 dopamine neurons, which actually increase dopamine production after a disappointment so that you are motivated to try again. And there is a time lag between the release of dopamine from these two types of dopamine neuron. So the type 1 comes first, and you feel that sense of disappointment in yourself, and then type 2 gets released, and then you're motivated to try again. Obviously, the shorter the time lag, the better, because you pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and you get cracking on trying again. So the most successful executives, entrepreneurs, etc., have a short time lag because they are so used to quote unquote failing. They've developed a level of resilience and strength around that. And so they are motivated very quickly to try again. What can you learn from that? Well, it starts by reframing failure. If you start to train your brain to see failure as a strength, something that makes you smarter, something that makes you better. And if you find evidence for your brain that your obstacles and failures have actually made you better and up-leveled you, then you can start to get your brain to see failure in a different way. And when you see failure in a different way, what you're going to experience is that shorter time lag and those type 2 dopamine neurons firing up more because you are developing a level of emotional resilience around failure over time.